The Halal Times, the voice of Ummah. In a shocking press conference that is already sparking controversy, US President Donald Trump was asked a question that has been hanging for months. Why are foreign journalists not allowed inside Gaza? Trump, in his usual blunt style, gave a response that may shake the foundations of Israel's carefully crafted propaganda machine. He expressed his support for Israel to open Gaza's borders, to allow foreign journalists to report from the ground. However, it was not this particular aspect of his response that sparked controversy. What caught everyone's attention was his brutally honest admission. It was what is in his heart regarding the state of journalists in Gaza and how Israel has successfully made it hell for them to not only work, but also survive.
Will you pressure Israel to allow journalists into Gaza to cover the humanitarian efforts the U.S. is pursuing? And
I'd like to see that happen, Joe.
Would you pressure?
I would like to see it happen. I would be very fine with journalists going in. It's a very dangerous position to be in, as you know, if you're a journalist, but I would like to see it.
As shown in the clip, Trump can be heard saying that Gaza is a very dangerous place for journalists to be in. Now, this statement may sound casual at first, but in reality, it is nothing short of explosive. Because by saying this, Trump shattered the very excuse Israel has been using for decades, and specifically for the past 2 years. This statement comes just days after one of the darkest chapters in journalism history. Israel deliberately executed 4 Al-Jazeera journalists and 2 freelance reporters in Gaza. With these murders, the total number of journalists directly targeted and executed by Israel has now risen to 270. Let that number sink in. 270 journalists. This is the highest ever recorded in modern history for the deaths of journalists in a war zone. And yet, when Israel is confronted, its excuse is always the same. These journalists were working for the Gaza government. But unfortunately for Israel, these deaths of the journalists were not taken lightly. As around the world, there have been vigils and protests in solidarity with the Palestinians suffering in Gaza and in remembrance of the journalists who were deliberately executed by Israel in the engulfed region on Sunday while they were in their tents. And that's not all. To pressure Israel to permit international media into Gaza and end Israel's brutal war there, journalists, students, activists, and members of civil society staged protests on Wednesday, particularly in Cape Town, South Africa, Manila, the Philippines, and London, the United Kingdom. This is because all Israel does is lie and lie and lie always. The world wants foreign journalists to enter the enclave and report, preventing Israel from claiming that the journalists were working for the resistance. When Israel is asked for evidence to prove their point that the journalists were working for the resistance, Israel never produces any, not once. The truth is straightforward. Israel views every single journalist in Gaza as a legitimate target. Why? Because these journalists are the ones showing the reality of Gaza to the world. They are the ones exposing the cruelty and barbarity of the IDF when they attack hospitals, when they shoot children, and when they reduce entire neighborhoods to rubble. They are the ones carrying the voices of Palestinians beyond the walls of Gaza. And Israel cannot afford that truth to be seen. So what does Israel do? First, it eliminates journalists one by one. Second, it blocks all foreign journalists from entering Gaza. And when questioned, why don't you allow international journalists inside when every other war-torn nation in the world does? Israel always hides behind the same excuse. We are concerned about the safety of journalists. But if they truly cared about journalists' safety, would they be deliberately targeting them every other day? Would they have the blood of 270 journalists on their hands? No. The truth is that Israel's so-called concern is nothing more than the biggest, most shameless lie. And this is where Trump's words hit hard. by saying that Gaza is dangerous for journalists. He didn't say journalists linked with or working for the Gazan government. And he didn't say journalists funded by Gaza's government. He said it plainly for all journalists. This means even foreign journalists, unbiased reporters, and those working for independent outlets. All of them are under threat from Israel the moment they dare to report the truth about Gaza. Trump may have uttered this line casually, but for Israel it is anything but casual. Because deep down, they know it's true. They cannot allow journalists in. Not now, not ever. Why? Because if foreign journalists step into Gaza and start reporting, Israel's lies will collapse overnight. How can Israel, a state that is systematically eliminating every existing journalist in Gaza, ever invite new ones in, to execute them too? And yet, despite the assassinations, despite the blackout, the truth still finds a way out. All over the world, Israel is facing humiliation and embarrassment for being a bully and a war criminal. Because history has always shown us, lies, no matter how powerful, will one day fall. And truth, no matter how much one tries to bury it under rubble and silence, will always rise. The journalists of Gaza may be executed, their cameras may be shattered, and their voices may be silenced, but the reality they captured, the stories they told, and the blood they witnessed, it all lives on. And no matter how much Israel tries to erase it, the world will remember. That's all for today. If you found the video informative, please like it and subscribe to the channel. Jazak Allahu khairan.